Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind. Now, Mexico has very tough policies. They can do whatever they want, which is the way it should be, to be honest. You're violating something very sacred. You're violating a border. Canada, very, very tough. Very, very tough. And Canada is very merit-based. You come into Canada, it's got to be based on merit. With us, it's a lottery system. Pick them out, a lottery system. You can imagine what those countries put into the system. They're not putting their good ones. And remember my opening remarks at Trump Tower when I opened. Everybody said, oh, he was so tough. And I used the word rape. And yesterday it came out where this journey coming up, women are raped at levels that nobody's ever seen before. They don't want to mention that.
Oh, my God. All right. See, he didn't. Oh, my God. This was Trump in West Virginia yesterday. We played you, a little of it yesterday as it was happening because I couldn't believe what the crap he was saying. And I turned on the TV to see if they were going to debunk him. And just about everybody, well, except for Fox News. Mo Brooks from Alabama, he says there's an invasion. I swear to God, you have Congress members that will just repeat any swill this man said. You didn't say the word rape. You said rapists. That's what you said, and you were referring to Mexicans. And yesterday, he started to say that the Caravan that spooked him into calling up the National Guard has become some sort of a traveling rape circus. Now, women in my audience, and I've noticed there are a lot of us, where do you think you'd be safer? In the Caravan that made its way to Puebla, Mexico just today, thank God, where they were headed, not to the border, but to Puebla, Mexico, or in Donald Trump's office? I mean, more women have said that they suffered sexual assault at the hands of Donald Trump than said that they were assaulted on this Caravan. In fact, hours after Trump made this stupid appearance in West Virginia where he was feeling buoyant, he was feeling happy. Because he won West Virginia by 43 points, 430,000 points. It was like a Putin election in West Virginia. You know why? Opioids, everybody. Opioids. Opioids are the opioids of the masses. Used to be religion. It's been replaced. It's now opioids. It's the actual opioid of the masses. And they went and they voted for Donald Trump. And right after he got out of West Virginia, where he was supposed to be doing a tax roundtable, he was supposed to be talking about, how great the tax, but he was supposed to be selling that. And he doesn't want to sell it because he knows it's bullcrap. He knows that the people in West Virginia haven't gotten, jack crap. I didn't either. And we had a very bad jobs report because today's Friday. We got a very bad jobs report. And then he threatens, another $100 billion, of tariffs on China. And the stock market today, 700 points down at one point, and now it closed about 500 points down. I thought he was taking credit for the stock, but now he never talks about it. Just now he's talking about rapists and Mexicans because it's Trump's greatest hits. And speaking of Stormy Daniels, you just have to say greatest hits 3 times fast and you'll understand what I mean. But anyway, so they went, the people in the press, literally, the journalists, the people who Trump would like to, disappear. They went to the organizers of the Caravan and they asked Rodrigo Abeja, who is one of the organizers, whether or not he had heard about any of the women in the Caravan being sexually molested or, in fact, raped. And he asked the reporters, have you heard of a case? And they said, no. He said, well, I've been with the Caravan for 12 days, and I haven't seen or heard of anyone being raped at levels no one has ever seen before, which means even on the road, in the Caravan, in Mexico, they heard what he said. They heard him. The deputy director of the Latin American program at the Woodrow Wilson Center in Washington agreed migrants face dangers, but there's no data that says that any sexual abuse has occurred on this caravan. He said, in fact, it's why the caravan was formed, so they could protect themselves from abuse from Mexican authorities, criminal groups, unscrupulous people. No criminal is so stupid to do something like that while everybody's eyes are trained upon them. That did not stop Congressman Mo Brooks from Alabama going on and talking to what's her name, Camerata this morning, Allison Camerata, and telling her, there's an invasion, we're being invaded.
Good morning.
Great to have you here. I want to read what the statement you put out about this caravan and about the president's idea to send National Guard troops to the border. Here's your statement. I fully support President Trump's use of our military to secure the border against invasion by foreign nationals. Recent highly publicized caravans of thousands of foreigners heading for America's border emphasize that it is past time for Congress to reform laws that entice and reward foreign nationals who illegally invade America. Congressman, why are you using the word invasion and illegal invasion there?
Because that's the word that applies. If you go to Webster's dictionary, it absolutely fits that definition.
Okay, fuck yourself. Really, Mo. Honestly, the whole state of Alabama. Just, Roy Moore, really. Mo Brooks, honestly, because if you look at anybody that invokes Hitler or Webster's dictionary, you've just lost the argument, okay? Honestly, I saw this morning on the Fox and the Friends with the news model, Ainsley, whatever her, what is she with Ford Modeling? I don't know which agency represents. She's actually sitting there pulling out the dictionary going, let's look up the word oligarch. You know what? Fuck you. Okay, and you know me, I'm not a cursing whore, but honest, I'm so sick of these people with their invasion theories and whip out Webster's and this is Nazi Germany, and you have a president who is a congenital liar, so much so that he can't even go and clear his name. He swears he's done nothing wrong, and he can't even go and talk to the special prosecutor, the special counsel, because he will lie. He will lie, and every one of his friends, every one of his he's got one lawyer left. Every one of his lawyer. Everyone knows he's lying. He's lying and lying. Honestly, I cannot stand these people.
But isn't this the process for seeking asylum?
Yes, it is.
People show up on our shores and at our borders seeking political asylum?
Well, if you want to get into the legalistics of what is asylum and what is not, that is...
Yes, we want to get into the legalism. You're calling them criminals. I think the legal has something to do with that. You're declaring we're having an invasion. These people, go look on a map, will you please, everybody? Just Google Mexico and then Google Puebla, Mexico. Puebla, Puebla, Mexico. It means town. Is really what it means. Just Google it. Now, you tell me, is that anywhere near the border? Is it? No. It's in the middle of Mexico. It's in the central part of Mexico. These people have got to be, I'm telling you, I want them under oath when they are, if they're on the TV and they're using representative in front of their name with the R Alabama next to it, they must be under oath. This is crazy. The racism that they are promoting in this, it's tearing us apart. It's tearing up. Well, if you want to talk about the legality of it, this is the process for asking for asylum, and they're nowhere near our border anyway. And they're not being raped. What is this rape thing? We have more credible reports about sexual abuse at the hands of Alabama Senate candidates than we do about Mexicans. What the F, people? Trump said, yeah, well, yesterday it came out where this journey coming up, women are raped at levels nobody's ever seen before. It came out? It came out of what? Your ass? Where did it come out? I'm so sick of it. And the racism, oh my God. You want to hear what goes on Fox and Friends? Check this one out, okay? I'm going to play you 2 clips, then we'll take a break, and then we have really exciting news, I think, if you're interested in justice. If you're interested in, finding, Eric Prince guilty, Wow, it was an amazing report last night. Nobody's really dealing and talking, but I will. But look at the racism. This is Fox and Friends this morning.
You're seeing a picture of Jay-Z right now, the rapper, continuing his attacks now on the president and lecturing the country on why white men are so privileged in an upcoming episode of David Letterman's new show on Netflix. Watch this.
He's bringing out an ugly side of America that we wanted to believe was gone.
Yeah.
And it's still here, and we still got to deal with it. And we have to have the conversation. We have to have tough conversation. We have to talk about the N-word, and we have to talk about why white men are so privileged in this country.
But as a celebrity worth close to $1 billion, according to Forbes, is he the right person to be talking about wealth and privilege?
Oh my God, they are so stupid. They are so stupid. They don't understand that when Jay-Z is in a car and he's driving, in a nice car in a neighborhood where somebody might not, recognize that Jay-Z, if God forbid he reaches into his pocket to get his driver's license, he could get shot dead, just killed. They think white privilege means wealth because that's what it means to Fox and Friends. Holy crap, man. Are they stupid? That was the most ignorant thing I'd ever heard a white person. So many days go by, so many times I'm sitting there, I'm talking to Howard, watching the TV, and I go, you know what? I hate white people. I just hate that. And I don't mean all white people. I hate saltines. They want to call me a snowflake. Oh, F you. You're a freaking cracker. That's what you are. You're crackers. And we're just going to call you saltines now. Anybody that repeats this swill that white privilege means wealth, it doesn't mean wealth. It means that I can walk through Neiman Marcus and no one's going to follow me. However, if Brett walks through Neiman Marcus and Brett makes the same amount of money I do. In fact, I think Brett makes a little more. I think he does. But if Brett goes into Neiman Marcus looking for the fabulous, blue suede shoe with a little, snub toe, he's got the best taste in shoes. After me, he gets followed. That's white privilege. I have less money in my pocket. I could be wearing a Randi Rhodes t-shirt, which, by the way, this is brand new. I have something to tell you about the Randi Rhodes t-shirt. I'm so freaking excited about those. But listen to this stupid conversation.
Here to weigh in on this is Executive Director of Unhyphenated America, Mr. Christopher Harris. Hey, Christopher, thanks for being with us.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, you're welcome. What is your reaction about what Jay-Z just said?
I think he's precisely the wrong person to have this conversation.
Oh, my God.
It'd be one thing if he had just given up his past, but he continues to promote a message, a divisive message. And, the left is actually promoting him because he's a shiny object to distract people.
Yeah, because Jay-Z's complaining about white privilege, but we had a black president for 8 years. Did he do a good job?
Well, here's the interesting thing. I'm a big fan of Booker T. Washington, and he was the first black man to be invited to the White House. And there was a huge backlash when he was invited to the White House by Teddy Roosevelt. But then we fast forward a little bit over 100 and something years, and you have Sean Carter being invited to the White House or hanging out with President Obama, and they're Twitter buddies, or text buddies, and no one said a word. It's one of those things
Why
where
would you say a word?
They want to continue to promote an idea that's not really there. When you're dealing with individual Americans dealing with each other individually, we don't have the problems that the left says that we do.
Oh, really?
But when you listen to the lamestream media, that's what they're going to keep telling you, is that we're all at each other's throat, and it's simply not true.
Well, but you hear that all the time, Christopher, and after a while, people start to believe it if it's not true.
We're talking about unarmed black men being killed in their grandma's backyard. We're talking about Philando Castile, who was licensed to carry, who told a police officer that he was and was killed. We're talking about a guy in New York who was bipolar, who was known to the neighborhood, who was running down the street with a pipe in his hand and was killed. This crazy freaking channel doesn't understand that the same person who told a police officer that he had a license to carry, if they were white, would not have been killed. If they had been breaking windows in there and then jumped the fence to get back to grandma's house, if they had been white, they would not have been killed. If this was a person in New York that was running around, with a Tamir Rice with a pellet gun or with a toy, it wouldn't have been 2 seconds after the police jumped out of the car that this little kid was killed. If Tamir Rice's name was John Smith or John Butin. Do you know what I'm saying? Why do they do this? And then I got real footage. Okay, this happened yesterday also. This is a little suburb outside of Atlanta. This is called Griffin, Georgia. Okay, and this was their city council meeting. And the reason why this was happening is because this little county declared April Confederate History Month. And one of the former council members was so excited that he decided to address the council and tell them what it meant to be a white Southerner.
And we talked, and I told you where I came from, and we had an understanding, and you understood me much better after that, and we served together pretty good after that. We did. I told you at that time that they were white folks, they were black folks when I was growing up.
Okay.
There was white trash, my family, and there was town. I live next town.
You live next to what town?
Town, son, I'm telling you. Now, I've changed. I'm no longer white trash, and they're no longer called that. Now, wait a minute.
Hold on one second.
Mr. McCord, let him have his minute, please. Mr. McCord, please.
What did
Now,
what
if
did
that's
he just...
offensive, I apologize for being offensive, but I told you that.
Mr. McCord,
now,
please.
Let me just go ahead and say something.
offensive.
You said something about the flag.
I didn't say you were
It's my time to
offensive.
speak. You said something about the flag.
I'm not going to sit here,
Mr. McCord.
and now maybe y'all are comfortable with that. Now, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and let this man use that type of language. And if nobody else is offended, then I am. Now, if y'all think, if y'all want to clap and think that that's okay for this gentleman to stand in 2018.
Really?
And get here at the Board of City Commission meeting, 2018, the Civil War is over, and he is using the N-word, not once, not twice, 3 times, and he just continues to say it
Mr. McCord.
with not word about who it offends.
2018, a former city council member goes to the city council to explain why they need Confederate History Month and says, well, I mean, you got two kinds of people here. You got your white trash and you got your N-words. And, you had the white trash town and then you had N-town. And, and when Mr. McCord, who obviously is a black man on the Griffin's Georgia City Council, which is just outside of Atlanta. It's not like in the hinterlands and the boonies. I mean, these people have access to real TV. You know what I'm saying? And when he says to him, isn't anybody else offended? Nobody speaks up. Nobody. At the end, one of the white women who had just joined the city council, she said, you know what? We need to have some words we can't say here, because if I said a 4-letter word that started with an F and ended with a K, everybody would be all over me. But this man can stand here and say the N-word not once, not twice, but 3 times in the year 2018. This is ridiculous. This has got to stop. Poor Mr. McCord, he was the only one that spoke up and went, what are you, really? What do you do? This is the kind of hatred the president is codifying.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Mitchell Gold and Bob Williams introduces its Spring 2018 home collection of classic, modern, and new traditional silhouettes in a vivid spectrum of colors, textures, patterns, and prints. The new spring collection features a modern slant with clean-lined and comfortable styles that pay tribute to iconic American designs from the mid-century to the late 1970s. Experience the new collection in comfort at a signature store near you, or peruse the entire collection in e-catalog online. Find a store store and shop online at mgbwhome.com. Join the Mitchell Gold and Bob Williams Comfort Club, a customer loyalty program that offers you 20% savings every day with exclusive access to special member-only offers and services like complimentary in-home design. It's free. It's easy to join. Sign up now. Start saving today at a Mitchell Gold and Bob Williams signature store near you or online at mgbwhome.com.
You're listening to the Progressive Voices Network, and here's a clip from Tara Buster with comedian Tara Devlin from rdtdaily.com.
They must have all received the memo, because the talking point is the Parkland students are bullies. All right, so that's the consistent message that we're getting. So this guy on MSNBC, he slipped it in while he was being interviewed just what a bully David Hogg is. David Hogg is bullying people because it's his way or the highway. He doesn't want to debate. He's not listening. This is what he's saying, because he's a bully. That's the message they're saying. You know, it's really hard to listen when you're cowering under your desk, when the rounds are flying over your head. It's kind of hard to listen. You know, it's a little deafening. And then I saw online that they're sharing these memes that say, Emma Gonzalez is a bully. I bullied, this meme says. But that's their message. It's, they're bullies. They're blaming them. They're blaming the kids, saying that they bullied this kid, and that's why he came and he shot them, which is, it's a lie. And not only is it a lie, it's a filthy lie. It's a disgusting, filthy, dirty Republican lie, but I repeat myself. This is Tara Devlin from rdtdaily.com. That was a clip from my show, Tara Buster, recorded live every Saturday evening on the RDT Daily Facebook page and streamed simultaneously on YouTube and Facebook Live. Replayed Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern on Progressive Voices, or anytime on demand on the Progressive Voices app. Support RDT Daily and the Progressive Voices Network. Remember, we stick together, we win.
All things Randi at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
He lies again to the American people. This kind of events, that so-called Caravan, happens every year.
Every year.
As a matter of fact, close to 500,000 Central Americans cross the border into Mexico, and 400,000 of them are sent back. Another 100,000 get into Mexico, are around there in their desire to come to the state. But Mexico is doing its job, sending that people back to their homes with a lot of compassion, human attitude, not with a stick. So this Caravan happens almost every year. Now, he lied about the rapist level there. Right. Please, Trump, tell the truth to your people. Don't lie to them every day.
No, really. That was former President of Mexico, Vicente Fox, saying, please, Mr. Trump, stop lying to your people. You lie to them every day. There are no rapists. The caravans happen every year. I think I was the only or the first person to tell it to you. These caravans, and you know who else is marching? The teachers in Oklahoma are marching from Tulsa to Oklahoma City, 110 miles. They are marching. This whole country is out in the streets. Everyone's out. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So we're starting to look more like Honduras than the president wants you to know. This is just crazy. It's insane. When you have teachers who can't even, they have to have a second job. I saw teacher signs on this march to Oklahoma, through Oklahoma, from Tulsa to Oklahoma City. And the teacher's sign said, my second job paid for this sign. I mean, it was just, they're so fun. And there's people all along the route from Tulsa to Oklahoma City where these teachers are marching that are saying, please don't give up, please don't give up. And I just wanted to tell the teachers in Oklahoma, we're watching, we're with you. I don't know how many listeners we have in Oklahoma, but I will tell you, Dora the Explorer, that's her nickname. You know, Iron Man donated 10 podcasts, and we've been giving them away all week. And then Mr. Mark gifted us 10 podcasts to give to you. And last night, Dora the Explorer, she's from Brooklyn. Dora donated 5 podcasts, but she wants them to go to people in Oklahoma so that the people in Oklahoma, especially the teachers there, know that we are watching and we are rooting for them, and we don't want them to give up, because the United States of America is starting to look much more like Central America, and Central America, parts of it like Costa Rica, where, you know, I have a little experience, is starting to look more like America. We are losing it, people. We are losing it. It is so vile here. I can't even tell you. And the next one up, the next teachers' rally, the march, is going to be in Arizona. I keep telling you, April 11th, there's going to be a walk-in in Arizona. That is to test the waters, to see if they can get 1,000 schools to participate in the walk-in. The walk-in is on April 11th, and what they want is very early in the morning, before the first bell rings. They want concerned parents. They want teachers who are interested in, getting rid of the cuts that were made after the stock market tanked in 2008, after the last Republican president caused chaos in our economy and caused the whole thing to go boom, right? They got cut because that's America. That's America. You know, big banks, they're given, deregulation. They're given tax cuts. They're given every break in the book. They get so greedy. They take advantage of it. They throw the whole system into turmoil like today. And then when the whole thing comes to a crash, who pays for it? Schools. Public education gets cut. And that's what happened all across this country. And so in Arizona, they want to restore the cuts. Oklahoma, they want to restore the cuts to education. You know, Betsy DeVos is never going to do a damn thing. Her brother, Eric Prince, oh my God, it's such a small world. He's about to face the bar, Justice. You wait. This story is just getting, hurry up, Mueller. Hurry. I want to read all these. Summer reading will never be the same after Mueller issues his report. Never be the same. But in Arizona, before the first bell on April 11th, the teachers are going to have a walk-in where they want parents in the communities. They want, obviously the teachers. They want anybody from, the school boards or any concerned person to join them. Bring a sign that says that you're with the teachers. And if they see that there are 1,000 schools in Arizona that participate in the walk-in before the bell on the 11th of this month, then they will organize those schools and they will start a walk out. School will go on as usual on the 11th. It will go on as usual. And that day is going to be really important. That's the day that Zuckerberg testifies. I was reading a story today. This is so freaking frightening. Facebook was going to get into the medical business. I don't know if you know this. This was. They were going to go into the medical business, and they were going to get your medical records, and they were going to combine that data with your data on Facebook so that they would know if you lived alone. They said it was all for good purposes. If you lived alone, they would know to tell you needed to get a nurse to stay with you in the house. I swear to God. And they've just called that little experiment off. So April 11th is going to be a transformative day in many ways, especially in Arizona and on Capitol Hill. Now, all of a sudden, Facebook says they've implemented new policies now. So now, if I post something on Facebook and I want to boost that post, they're going to ask me for all kinds of information, who I am, what do I want with these people, blah, blah, blah. So we'll see. We'll see. I haven't boosted anything lately, so we'll see. But that's another thing. I honest to God, I just cannot believe where we're going. I mean, this is so Orwellian. 1984 is, until Mueller's report comes out, if you haven't ever read 1984, it's a really fast read. I mean, I remember reading it in a day. I remember sitting out in my living room one Saturday, and I just picked it up, and I read the whole thing in one day. You could do it in one day. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And everything in there, it's just like that movie Network. If you prefer doing it in a movie, do Network. Everything that was in there that was supposed to be outrageous and crazy and futuristic, and it's all happened. It has all occurred. So this is just so yesterday you had the president giving a tax reform speech where he downshifted into ultra racism. He accused the state of California of being involved in massive voter fraud, which, I mean, you can't even have it. He said it's not a conspiracy theory. It's not it really did happen.
Many places, like California, the same person votes many times. You probably heard about that. They always like to say, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. Not a conspiracy theory.
No, it's not a conspiracy theory because conspiracy theories can be debunked and then they go away. But this one's been debunked 80,642 times and you still keep repeating it. So this is a lie at this point. This is not a conspiracy theory anymore. There have been no... In fact, his own... Remember he put together, what's that idiot guy's name from Kansas? Chris Kobach put together a voter fraud committee. It's been disbanded. They found absolutely zero evidence of voter fraud. I told you, one woman in Texas has gone to jail for 5 years because she was still on supervised release. She had served prison time. She was a tax preparer. This was the big criminal. She was a tax preparer, and she said she was padding her clients' tax forms to get them bigger refunds so she could build her business as the best tax preparer. She got caught. She went to jail. She did her time. She's been out of jail, and now she's on supervised release, right? And so she went to vote. And her name wasn't on the voting rolls, and so they gave her a provisional ballot. And it says on there, if you're a felon or you haven't completed your sentence in Texas, or you're still on supervised parole or whatever it is, you can't vote. And she voted anyway. You know what they gave her? 5 freaking years. 5 years. That is a very low return, high risk crime. That's why nobody does it. Nobody does it. And this man just continues to lie and lie and lie. The Mexican president, he's sitting there on the TV going, please, Mr. President, start telling the truth.
He lies again to the American people.
I mean, this is sad. And if you have the ex-president of Mexico saying it, and you got Peña Nieto saying it, and they're in negotiations on NAFTA, which, by the way, is going to be a publicity stunt. I've already looked. NAFTA, it's got to be... approved by Congress. The treaties have to go to the Senate. Senate has, approval over treaties. Let me tell you something. They are leaving out everything that would be like I said, what is an import? So they would have to deal with, how many parts from America go into a car that's finished in Mexico, and then is it an import, and how many people would get hurt that make auto parts in the United States and send them to Mexico so Mexico can complete the car. It's just a whole mess. And so it's too much for Trump. It's too much. He can't figure it out. So he's not even going to address the issue of automobiles. He's not going to address investment, and he's not going to address there was a labor standards, which is a big part of what irks people about NAFTA, is that, they can get much less than minimum wage and no health insurance and all that. He's not addressing any of these 3 issues, which means there is no renegotiation of NAFTA. It's just going to be a publicity stunt. The whole thing, like everything he does. Empty, empty, empty promises. This is a man who pulls crap out of his ass and then you freaking suffer for it. He plays people for such suckers and they freaking believe him. Everything he says is false. You remember, he also said yesterday at his tax reform thing, the only thing he mentioned about taxes, that was a lie too. He said they used to call it tax reform and for 40 years they couldn't pass anything and they didn't know why. I called it tax cuts and look what I passed the biggest tax cuts in the history of the United States. No. Bill Clinton cut taxes. He also raised taxes. George Bush cut taxes. He also raised taxes. Barack Obama cut taxes. And Ronald Reagan cut taxes and also raised taxes. But they raised taxes on the little people. They raise your gas tax. They take away your deductions, right? They take away your ability to you used to be able to deduct your credit card interest. Ronald Reagan took that little perk away from you. Now they just lowered the amount that you can take off for, your property, for property taxes and mortgage interest. Freaks. you know what? You can't listen. And people still listen to him, and the whole market is spooked. He is causing we had a bad jobs report, and then he started with, I'm going to tax another $100 billion worth of crap from China and all that. And China's like, that's fine. We have maps. We know who voted for you. We will, Kentucky, bye-bye bourbon. Soybean farmers, go to hell. And this is the spring. This is when people plant, and they don't even know what to plant because he's freaking out everybody, including people who actually grow these things. He is a nightmare.
To speak to Randi, call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
Hello.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force.
Oh, you're baking me crazy. Oh, yes, bacon lovers. It's that time of year. The time to stock up on the best tasting bacon jerky on the planet. And if you've had Herky Jerky bacon jerky, you know I'm not April fooling around. The tender cuts of pork shoulder are scrumptiously delicious and taste just like the home-cooked bacon out of your fridge, except softer and bendier. It's the perfect snack on its own. It's a great complement to your egg breakfast on a BLT sandwich, or dice it up, put it on your egg or potato salad or in any of your salads. One-of-a-kind bacon jerky. It comes in generous 12-ounce bags, and all month of April you get $5 off every bag. No promo code needed. So stock up now. Take advantage of the savings. Customers receive free shipping on 2-packs or more of anything on their website. So check out the beef jerky, the smokies, the buffalo, the elk, the venison, and the turkey jerky as well. Thank you to all the loyal customers who patronize Herky Jerky, and welcome to all the new ones. Go to herkyjerky.com now.
Hello, I'm Casey Hobbs.
And I'm Shane Mason, and we're the hosts of Nurse Talk Radio.
Here's what we're talking about this week.
In shock is Rana Adish's Syrian account of her extraordinary journey from doctor to patient, during which she sees for the first time the dysfunction of her profession's disconnection from patients and the flaws in her own past practice as a doctor. It is both a brave roadmap for anyone navigating illness and a call to arms for doctors to see each patient not as a diagnosis, but as a human being.
Here with us is Dr. Rana Adish. She's a critical care physician and faculty member of Wayne State University School of Medicine and current director of the Care Experience for the Henry Ford Hospital System.
So the introduction to your book is titled A Chance to Die. Can you share the significance of that with us, please?
Yeah, so coincidentally, my critical illness came at the very end of my medical training. I actually had just completed my critical care fellowship the very day that a tumor in my liver ruptured, causing me to bleed to death. And what I felt followed that sort of very long critical illness was really my chance to understand what so many of my patients had been through, that I had been somewhat...
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
This November, the entire House of Representatives is up for election. I think about the entire body being dissolved and the question of its future thrown back to the people, the American people. The U.S. House of Representatives we have this time next year will be entirely the result of what we, the voters, decide this fall. So with that, I dare to make a fairly acute prediction. I say it on this 5th day of April, with all the possibilities looming this summer and early fall. I believe the Democrats will carry the House. They will take control of the speakership, the chairmanship of all the committees, and perhaps most important, the power of the subpoena. They will lay claim to an enormous amount of power, and with it, I believe, an enormous amount of responsibility. A word first about the math. As I said early in the show, the Democrats have control now of 194 House seats. They need to pick up 24 to get to the 218 majority. History suggests, and the level of this president's popularity suggests, they will pick up more than the average 29 seats the party opposing the president gets in the first midterm election. I believe they'll do better, somewhere comfortably between 30 and 40 seats picked up.
Yay! That just made me feel good. Made me feel good. Yes, you understand every 2 years the entire House of Representatives is literally dissolved. We get to vote, and we vote for new representation. And as we've all, been very, very acutely aware of, we only need 24 seats, and, people in the know are retiring. Trey Gowdy is trying to polish up his image as, being fair and even-handed and running around, with a black senator to try and pretend he's, doesn't have a racial bone in his body. And, of course, they published a book together so they could, enrich themselves while in office. And Trey is leaving, and he says he wants to go back to being a prosecutor, that he's got nothing to show for his 7 years as a congressman. Great, now you tell us. Mr. Benghazi is saying he's got nothing to show for his 7 years as a congressman. Aren't you glad you voted for Trey Gowdy, who finally shaved his freaking head? That pointy-headed, Vulcan, he had like a Klingon hair. Finally somebody said to him, all right already. He said, all right, I'll do something about it. Maybe he saw Trump's, woo hairdo in the back and how stupid it all looked. I don't know, but they're all getting out of there as fast as they can. The Republicans are, because they know blue wave is coming. It's coming. It's coming, and it's going to be a tsunami, man. Nobody wants to live through this crap. We got a president who is a congenital liar, who is promoting racism and division and divisive talk and claiming that, he's had the biggest victory in the history of everything he says is a freaking lie. And he's getting us in danger. He doesn't know one thing about foreign policy. He's not listening to any of his advisors. He's making proclamations about, I don't telegraph what I'm going to do. But we're getting out of Syria. We're getting out of Syria. And the Russians are running the whole freaking world. Now the Russians and the Iranians are running to Ankara, to Turkey, to figure out who gets what part of Syria's oil fields. And this dictator gets to stay in power. And Russia gassed the Syrian people, and they're going to be declared the winner. I don't even understand what the hell this man, does know and doesn't know, because he can't tell the truth. But while he lies, he keeps on ripping us apart. It's like every time we make 2 steps forward, this guy pulls us 9 steps back. It is the same damn thing that the Republicans do all the time, but this one is he's a virus. He's a virus. How many times are you going to elect a guy who has an R after his name, who screws you into the freaking ground? Jesus, you people, you never learn. You never freaking learn. Ronnie in Oklahoma. Oh, Oklahoma.
Hey, how you doing, Randy? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Let me. I was just sitting here thinking, the wind right now is blowing like you would not believe, and we're in the plain state, so the wind is not. It's not abnormal for it to blow like it is. But it was 70.
Oklahoma, where the wind comes rushing down the plain. Oh, now they're going to flag me for a copyrighted song.
It was 70 degrees here today and a perfect day, and now all of a sudden it's just madness. But I wanted to call and thank you for all that you do. Whoever you have to be when you wake up in the morning to do what you do, I just wanted to thank you for that.
Do you have a podcast?
No, I don't.
I would like to gift you one from our friend Dora the Explorer, who specifically requested that people from Oklahoma get the free stuff today.
Oh, thank you, Dora. And the teacher strike, I noticed it right away because I take paratransit in the morning, and I ride with the teacher on my way to dialysis. And she hadn't been on, and I think I hope nothing happened to her. And then the driver told me, no, she's a teacher. She's on strike. My niece graduated University of Central Oklahoma 2 years ago, and she walked into the school and got a job as a teacher. I'm like, really? Is that easy?
Yes.
Are you serious?
No, listen, yesterday we had a guy call us up who said that there are so many temporary teachers there and that they just walk in off the street and they get hired and nobody vets them and nobody knows who they are or what. Now, I'm not saying that your relative is a bad person, but I'm so sorry. This is crazy. This is absolutely.
But she's not seasoned. The other thing, too, I wanted to mention was that that here in Oklahoma, the children are not mandated to go to school because they have a law that says if they have to work on the farm, then you can keep your kids at home, and so they can help you with your farm. They don't even have to go to school. Isn't that weird?
That's
is that crazy?
That's so 1910.
That's exactly what they do here.
That's grapes of wrath crap. That's like, really, that's wow. Wow.
And these kids are so dumb they couldn't pass a blood test. I'm telling you, it's ridiculous. They have no idea. I asked this one kid, why are the leaves green? Waiting for him to tell me about chlorophyll. He's like, well, because God made it green. I was like, go ahead. I was like, can I keep on moving?
Oh, you're awesome.
Like, you just cannot understand the level of ridiculousness that's here.
Oh, I can. I've been there many times.
The funniest thing is that they're so dumb, they think you're dumb.
I know.
You know, I'm from New York City. I'm from Queens. I'm from Sunnyside, Queens. 7th trade. Let's go Mets. You know, and these people, they try to run games that we used to run on each other in 4th grade.
How the hell did you get to Oklahoma? I know how I got there, but how did you get there?
I was driving a truck from New York to California.
That's how I got there. Oh, my God.
I was driving. A friend of mine was moving to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I laid down in a hotel in New Mexico. I went to a diabetic coma. And I was in a coma for 3 months. My brother retired in Lawton, Oklahoma. So he was the closest one. He was the closest one to me. So he came and got me, and I learned how to walk again. And I stayed with him. Then I went back to New York for a year. It was just way too fast for me at that stage because I had strokes and stuff while I was in the coma. But I never made it to California. And Oklahoma, you know, I can't think of anything.
So where are you in Oklahoma? Which part?
Lawton, Oklahoma,
You're
Southwest.
still in Lawton? Oh, my God. All right. So somebody's got to publish this book, okay? Especially some woman. No, really, because in the book, the first talk radio I ever heard in my whole life was in Lawton, Oklahoma, and it was that Bible Belt thing where it was like, oh
my goodness.
Oh, mother, save your son from the scourge of the marijuana, the Mary Jane. It's the devil's weed. Oh, my God. I laughed my silly little ass off in my car. I was driving a white Ford Maverick. No, it was a white Vega. And I used to just...
I remember those. I remember
and all
those.
I had was an AM radio. And I would listen to Lawton, Oklahoma and these crazy church shows. And then I got a job in radio and I had to run the crazy church shows. It was...
So it's funny because Oklahoma gets hit with a lot of tornadoes.
Yeah.
But Lawton doesn't because we have Mount Scott here. And the way it's the highest point in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And it's nice and stuff, but, you know, they take you to show you things. But they have a place called Mears here. You get a burger the size of a plate, but it tastes like zoo dirt. It tastes like zoo dirt. I'm like, this is not food. If you want real food, you have to make it yourself. That's what Oklahoma is.
Hey, man,
it really is.
That's why you need Jews. I mean, Jews know how to make food in a desert.
Let me tell you something. Ben's Deli, Forest Hills.
No, I'm
Queens
serious.
Boulevard.
You know, we know how to make food in a desert, and for some strange reason, white people never learned how to do it. I don't know.
Never learned. And if I could get a bagel with a schmear and some capers and these locks, come on.
I know.
I worked for New York City Department of Sanitation for 20 years. You know, and my route was in Forest Hill, so I know where all of the best chicken matzo. Whenever I was sick, I went to Ben's Deli, got a quart of chicken matzo ball soup, and it always worked. It always worked.
It's so good. All right, hold on, Ronnie. I'm going to get you fixed up with a podcast. All I need is an email address from you, okay?
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you. Thank you for calling. Thank you, Dora. We got one given away. I told her, I said, I don't know if we have 5 people listening in Oklahoma. I don't know if we do. And she said, well, I would prefer that you give it to, Okies. I think they need to hear you. And I said, all right. And then she said, look, I'm not going to be like, Mr. Iron Man wanted to give the podcast only to millennials. And he said he wouldn't be religious about it. And Dora, said she wouldn't either. But I'm still going to try and look for people from Oklahoma. Paul in Vermont.
Oh, hey, Randy.
Hey.
I've been listening to you for a long time. This is the first time calling you.
Oh, wow. There you go. All right.
Yeah, you're awesome.
Thanks.
So here's what I wanted to say is, first of all, what you were kind of vamping on, we're living in a movie that nobody would write because nobody would believe it.
That's right.
It's that. So it's all crazy. But here's the point I'd like to make today. I've been wanting to say to somebody for a long time on the radio, and it's that us progressives by nature are not necessarily aggressive per se. I'm progressive. We are more interested in moving forward, typically, and solving problems than getting hung up in dirty tricks and the rest of it. Not that that doesn't happen. However, my point is that, you know, the thing is that we suck at it. Okay, that's why it's hard. You know, when the right versus the left, the right, you know, you cut the Karl Rove dirty tricks and all the rest, and bring it up to date now. You know, we're kind of no match for him, right? Yeah. All right, so the thing here is that we need to make the Republicans pay for Trump. I don't think they're paying enough. I think, yes, we're going to have blue waves, which is going to be great. But I think all of the progress that's happening, or the majority of it, is coming from people, from us, from the populace. And I just don't hear or see enough resistance from Democratic voices, Democratic politicians who are in that position. And so I think in order to make the Republicans pay, I think we need to try to make it a habit of, when speaking, of when the word Trump is mentioned, it gets connected with the word Republican, because they own him, baby, and they can have him. But we need to make them pay. And they haven't paid enough yet. And maybe, hopefully, they'll pay at this election, but I don't know. But that's my point.
I know what you're saying, but this is a perfect opportunity to point this out to you. You know, the Republican Party allows him to do everything he's doing. They say nothing. You talk about being quiet. You say you don't hear Democrats railing and screaming. And you know what? When I turn on the TV and I hear, you know, somebody trying to get a subpoena, it's a Democrat. It's Adam Schiff, or it's Eric Swalwell, or it's Gerald Nadler. Do you know? I mean, I do see the Democrats on TV, and they're saying, you know, we don't have subpoena power, people, and you got to realize that we don't. If we don't get the majority, we'll never have it. But you give us subpoena power, and you will see perp walks. You'll see people.
That's all understandable to me.
But what I want to show you is that the Republicans, the Mitch McConnells, the Paul Ryans, do you see them anywhere on the TV? Do you hear that? No, they're saying absolutely nothing. So to look to politicians to do what needs to be done is kind of sad, because I tell you what they tell people like me. When I've made your voice heard in front of them, and I said, because they always say, "What do your listeners say?" And I'll say, "My listeners say that you're a bunch of namby-pamby, lily-livered, yellow-bellied, you know, sapsuckers, and that you say nothing and you do nothing." And they always say, until the people come, until the people show up, until we get back to the majority, we're not going to be able to do a thing. And you have to relay that back to them, that we're their representation, and it's not the other way around. If they don't give us the majority, we can't issue a subpoena. If they don't give us the majority, we don't have any committee. We can't even have a hearing. We can't even call a hearing. We have no power whatsoever.
I get that, but I don't get the zero power factor. I think that they do have power, because they have.
But look at how quiet the Republicans are. They say nothing.
Yeah, of course, because they're getting what they're, you know, they're hoping and getting what they can, and they're playing a very dicey game here.
Yeah, they're going to lose.
Risky game.
They're going to lose. And they're,
in the end, I believe you're right. I believe they will lose. But thank goodness.
I feel like Angel Stillwell. You're going to lose. You're going to lose. I really do, because they are going to lose, and they will be, you know, shown to be the losers that they are. If we get the majority back, watch. You won't be saying that Democrats are namby-pamby do-nothings anymore.
No. You know,
but I will say this. I will say this. The last time the Democrats had the majority was for like 5.5 seconds. Remember, we didn't really have the Senate. Al Franken's election was down to 316 votes. We had to go through a recount and all this. And Obama had a majority for what, like 9 months or something. And he chose to try and ensure 30 million people. He thought that was the best use of the majority. So that's what he worked on. Now, was that a mistake? Time has told us probably. And that there were other things like, you know, equal justice under the law and policing and you know, ending wars and, you know, things like that. But Citizens United obviously just screwed us to the wall. But I got to say, if we get the majority back, it will be a different group. It's not going to be the DLCers. It's not going to be the corporate Democrats that were the majority, when Clinton was president. Okay. And
no doubt about it. If we get that, we're at least on the way. I just wish, I would love to hear and kind of spread the word that, hey, every time you say the word Trump, follow it with the word Trump and the Republicans, Trump and the Republicans, Trump and the Republicans, because they got to pay.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. Their silence is deafening. And the fact that this president is tearing this world apart, tearing our country apart, tearing our institutions apart, tearing people's hearts out, that they have to pay.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
There is no more beautiful sight than an American-made car.
Bad news for consumers. Trump's EPA to roll back fuel efficiency standards for cars. Department of Justice sues California for blocking sale of federally owned lands in California. Exxon's lawsuit to prevent states from investigating its climate change denial is thrown out of court. Plus,
listen, I don't know how you survive this one.
Environmental groups launch a campaign to boot Pruitt.
All of those campaigns and lawsuits straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
We're going to work on the CAFE standards so you can make cars in America again.
Wow, you couldn't make cars in America anymore? That'll be news to the auto industry, who just finished 7 record years of all-time high sales. Go figure. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, the U.S. auto industry has been, forgive the pun, firing on all pistons now for a whole bunch of years, right up until this year. 1 year after Donald Trump takes office.
Yeah, and now they want to roll back the fuel efficiency standards. As expected, the Trump administration's Environmental Protection Agency announced on Monday that it will begin the formal process of rolling back pollution and emission standards for new cars that were set under President Obama. Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt called the Obama-era targets for vehicles starting in 2022, quote, wrong and not appropriate. U.S. automakers heavily lobbied for the change and reportedly intend to use the rollback to demand that other countries weaken their standards as well. The Obama standards had been the single biggest action ever taken by the U.S. federal government to curb carbon emissions. Big oil is the big winner, since weaker fuel efficiency standards will increase oil consumption. Weakening the targets will also increase carbon emissions, increase air pollution, and will ultimately cost American families money at the gas pump and in health impacts.
Money at the gas pump because they're going to be paying higher prices for gas than they would have had these standards been allowed to move forward.
As environmental journalist David Roberts of Vox.com noted in a recent broadcast, environmental deregulation amounts to a pollution tax on everyday Americans.
Getting rid of these regulations is an upward income redistribution. You're taking money out of the pockets of ordinary people in the form of health costs and missed work and all the rest of it, and you're putting it in the pockets of industrialists.
Auto industry analysts warn that U.S. car makers risk losing market share to Chinese and European manufacturers because the rest of the world is moving toward more fuel-efficient cars. Administrator Pruitt also threatened to revoke California's special authority under the Clean Air Act to set more stringent standards for vehicles sold in California. California and other states plan to sue the Trump administration to block the weakening of these standards.
Because they're arguing that California's more stringent standards can't stand? Because somehow that affects markets in the rest of the country?
Yes, they want a national standard, which will, of course, be a weaker standard.
So much for states' rights that Republicans pretend to care about.
Exactly. Also on Monday, the Trump Justice Department picked another legal fight with California, suing in federal court to overturn a state law that restricts the transfer of public lands to private buyers, as the administration tries to open up more public lands to mining and drilling. The state law gives the California State Lands Commission the right of first refusal over any attempted sale or transfer of publicly owned federal lands that are located in California.
So much for states' rights that Republicans pretend to believe in.
Again, exactly. In politics, major environmental organizations like the Sierra Club and the Environmental Defense Fund have launched a coordinated campaign calling for EPA Chief Scott Pruitt to be fired. The Boot Pruitt campaign highlights Pruitt's deregulatory actions that endanger public health, but also his lavish first-class travel and large private security detail on the taxpayer's dime, amid a brewing scandal over his sweetheart below-market rent arrangements for an apartment from the wife of a D.C. energy industry lobbyist. On Sunday's ABC This Week, former New Jersey Governor Republican Chris Christie criticized Pruitt's judgment.
The president's been ill-served by this, and if Mr. Pruitt's going to go, it's because he should have never been there in the first place.
Finally, some good news. A U.S. federal district judge has dismissed ExxonMobil's lawsuit attempting to block an investigation by the attorneys general of New York and Massachusetts into whether the oil giant covered up what it knew about climate change impacts and whether it lied about it to investors and the public. The judge dismissed Exxon's lawsuit with prejudice, meaning the company cannot bring it again.
The judge booted ExxonMobil's case.
Yes, she did.
And environmentalists are trying to boot Scott Pruitt.
Yes, they are.
That's a lot of boots. For much more on all of these reports and the ones we couldn't get to today, please check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Find us, follow us, and share us worldwide on the Facebooks and the Twitters at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you.
Please help Progressive Voices support the Green News Report by stopping by bradblog.com/donate.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
I think what is sad in Syria is that you had a population that took to the streets in 2011 in a very peaceful way. I saw the peaceful protests with my own eyes. My diplomatic team saw them. And people were demanding respect of their basic human rights, freedom of expression, freedom to assemble peacefully. And they have been crushed. They have been crushed. The people that we wanted to help in 2012, 2013 have largely been marginalized. And it's really just a tragedy that Bashar al-Assad and his government will continue. There will be no accountability for the war crimes that he and his government have committed, whether it be chemical weapons or bombing hospitals or bombing schools. Or I think Syria is just a tragedy.
It is. It's just a tragedy is what it is. Now, I'm sure you've heard over the weekend, and if you haven't, pay attention. The Syrians, with the help of the Russian Air Force, the air power that Syria has is supplied by Russia. And the Syrians have gassed again their own people. That's what happened over the weekend. You had people hiding in bomb shelters, and the Syrians actually bombed the bomb shelters and poisoned gas. We don't know if it was, they said the smell was very chlorine-y. So we don't know if it was sarin with chlorine or some sort of a chlorine, but it was a chemical attack on people who were hiding in bunkers in a portion of Syria that they were negotiating to leave. They were trying to get out. And so they were in these bomb shelters and they were hiding and they were gassed and they suffocated after being paralyzed by this gas. And the rescue workers went in to help these women and children and, families and the rescue workers got gassed, and they also suffocated. So they were treated as victims, the rescuers were. And the Russians are saying that this is fake news. The Syrians are saying this is fake news. I mean, they're starting to sound more like Trump than Trump does. It's amazing. So just like they learned to say from Donald Trump, it's fake news. It's fake news. Now, I want you to understand, I'm just going to explain to you basically what's going on in Syria, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to use our former ambassador, Robert Ford, who quit the State Department because nothing was being done in Syria. And then we can look at what Donald Trump says and what Donald Trump does, and how it's, doesn't gel. Okay, because what Donald Trump says what Donald Trump says is he will never telegraph what he's going to do.
I don't want to tell the enemy how I am thinking. Does that make sense? Surprise. Remember, they used to call it the element of surprise. I keep saying, whatever happened to the element of surprise? You know, I've been saying, the element of surprise. We're too predictable. We need to be unpredictable. We have to be unpredictable. We want to be unpredictable, folks. We want to be unpredictable. I'm not going to tell you anything about what response I do. I don't talk about military response. I don't want to be one of these guys that say, yes, here's what we're going to do. I don't have to do that. You know why? Because they shouldn't know.
All right, then.
And by the way, we're knocking the hell out of ISIS. We'll be coming out of Syria like very soon. Let the other people take care of it now. Very soon.
You know, I mean, his words are meaningless. I think we've already, understood that, process that, get that. I think even the Trump supporters understand that they can't rely on his word. His word means nothing. It's not so much that he's a liar. It's that he makes it up as he goes along. And today might be different than yesterday. And no leader in the free world takes him seriously. No leader in the free world thinks that his word is good. The idea that, and then this morning, I didn't pull it, but this morning he had a little cabinet meeting, a little dog and pony show there. Today is, John Bolton's first day. John Bolton, the warmonger, right? John Bolton, who still says Iraq was a good idea. And the reason why Syria is like Syria is because of Iraq. Okay, we're still paying for the Bush years. And of course, all Trump wants to do is blame this on Obama, which is a joke. It's an absolute joke. Because when Obama wanted to do something in Syria, he didn't think it was covered under the authorization to use force in Afghanistan or Iraq. And so Obama, just to jog your memory, went to Congress. And all those people, those same people that voted to go to Iraq, voted not to do jack crap about Syria. And that's why nothing was done about Syria. Obama took it to Congress and he thought, these are the warmongery of the warmongers, and they're the most warmongerist. And so I'll have a good chance with them. And when he took it to Congress, Congress said, no, the hell with it. Okay. And then you might remember, and we covered this ever so briefly on Friday because the president was signaling that we're going to pull out of Iran, Syria to Iran, to Russia, who are the trifecta in Syria. That's who fights in Syria. The Assad government is backed up by Russian air power, the Iranians through their proxies, Hezbollah, and that is who is on one side. And then the rebels, that's us. The rebels who are fighting against Assad's regime, against Iranian influence, and against the Russians in Syria and the Russian air power, the Russian Air Force in Syria. That's us. We're the rebels. Now, I'll play you the report of what happened over the weekend. As you now know, when you hear the news reporting, America are the rebels.
Fred, what can you tell us about what's happening in Duma today to help those people and to move forward in this situation?
Well, one of the remarkable things that has actually happened over the past 24 hours or so is that essentially the Assad government has won that district back. Duma. What's going on right now as we speak is that there are buses that are exiting that place with rebel fighters in them and their families as well that are being taken to other parts of Syria. At the same time, there are also some prisoners that were held by the rebels, pro-government people, who are being bused to here to the government-held areas of Damascus. So essentially what's going on is that this area has been won back by the forces loyal to President Bashar al-Assad with a lot of help from the Russians.
How's that Russian thing going for you, Mr. President? How's that getting along with Putin going for you? I mean, literally, they are fighting against us in Syria. And I know a lot of people don't understand that, but that's because we're the rebels, and a lot of Americans can't get it through their head that we would be fighting against a dictator in a Middle Eastern country. I don't know why. It's all America ever does. But here is the former ambassador explaining to you how we lost Syria.
It has been evident for a long time that Syrian rebels who have been fighting the Assad government with American support have not been making progress, have been losing ground, in fact, and that Assad has largely won the Syrian civil war and that he will remain in power.
Mr. Putin has long wanted the U.S. to do, well, precisely this, and to be fair, to Donald Trump, he campaigned on this, on doing this. He campaigned on saying that he would back away from this. But is Mr. Putin the winner here?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the biggest winner is Bashar al-Assad and the Syrian government itself. As an ally to Bashar al-Assad, the Russian government is also a winner, but so is the Iranian government. But I think it's also just an acceptance of a reality that the Syrian rebels, backed by the United States, were not making progress on the ground. We could talk about why, but that's the grim reality.
Has the United States given up on Syria in terms of having influence? Have they basically given that influence strategically and geopolitically to Russia, to Iran?
Well, I think the American focus for a long time, dating back to 2014 in the Barack Obama administration, the focus has been fighting the Islamic State, not fighting Bashar al-Assad and his government. And so the American focus will continue against the Islamic State. I think administration officials have been very clear about that. But as far as the question, the broader question of the Syrian civil war and the future of the Bashar al-Assad government, they are leaving that to something much longer term, and they are basically ceding to Russia and Iran the main influence for the question of the future Syrian government.
Isn't that special? So there you have it. The president signals he's going to leave Syria. The Russian Air Force decides, hey, let's help this Bashar al-Assad gas some people in a place that the people were negotiating to leave. But let's just kill them and then we can get our prisoners back, and won't this be fun? And you have Trump now blaming Obama, who went to Congress and said, please give me authority to do something over there. Congress said, absolutely not, no way. And by the way, at that time when Obama was trying to intervene in Syria and ask Congress, for the war powers or that he needed, Donald Trump was tweeting. He was tweeting like crazy. He tweeted, President Obama, do not attack Syria. There is no upside and tremendous downside. And then last year, he said, my attitude towards Syria and Assad has changed very much. Because we have a child as a president. This is a reality TV star. This is not a brainiac on foreign policy. This is a guy who now has John Bolton, who's going to have the last say. He's going to be the last guy in the room. This thing is so far gone that the only thing left to do in Syria, is to get a ceasefire. Truly, that's all that there is left to do, is to get the war to stop so people can stop dying there, and then let the Syrian people figure out what kind of government they want to have. And then slowly but surely bring Assad to justice for war crimes. That is the only thing that will happen. Now, Bolton's going to want regime change, and Bolton's going to want this, and it's going to leave another vacuum. And I mean, it's just going to be a nightmare. And this is all because of Iraq. It's all because of W. All of this. This is the sickest freaking thing And by the way, he's like Trump. Oh, we're beating ISIS. This is why we're getting out of Syria.
Very important. As far as Syria is concerned, our primary mission in terms of that was getting rid of ISIS. We've almost completed that task, and we'll be making a decision very quickly in coordination with others in the area as to what we'll do. Saudi Arabia is very interested in our decision. And I said, well, you want us to say maybe you're going to have to pay. But a lot of...
Oh, man, everything for him is transactional. Everything for him is the deal. Everything for him has you pay and we'll fight for you. Like our soldiers, like the 2,000 special forces that are there, are mercenaries. First of all, he doesn't understand that Assad recruits ISIS.
Candidate Donald Trump made clear during the 2016 campaign that he wasn't interested in getting involved in other countries' civil wars, and he certainly wasn't interested in nation building. And Syria has a civil war, and it's largely a broken state in need of nation building. Mm-hmm. And so there's a consistency here that dates back to the 2016 Republican campaign.
What's the danger, though, geopolitically, of ceding that influence to Russia and Iran?
Well, the biggest danger is that Bashar al-Assad's government, its oppressive brutality, its corruption, feeds jihadi recruitment. And so while we may say we're not going to get involved in the Syrian civil war, the Bashar al-Assad government itself helps groups like the Islamic State and al-Qaeda, which are present in Syria, get new recruits, get new fighters. And so we would like to finish the war against the Islamic State and end our military operations there. But instead, we're in a sort of forever war because the Bashar al-Assad government helps the recruitment of the extremists that we are fighting.
Oh, my God. It's just, this is just so heinous. And, of course, everybody in the world knows that the President of the United States might lob 59 Tomahawk missiles in there after he gives a heads up to the Russian military to get their planes off the tarmac because he's going to lob 59 Tomahawk missiles in there. And, of course, nobody, loses an airplane because it was all for show. That was almost a year ago. It was April 6th. So today's April 9th, a year ago in 3 days. Right? He had absolutely no follow through, no nothing. It was just all for show. And now you got another, I don't know. Some people say it's, 90 people, 1,000 people wounded or, hurt by this gas attack, foaming at the skin, corneal burns, suffocation, a bluish discoloration of the skin because gas was dropped in a building next door to a bomb shelter.
Clear for takeoff. The Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Mitchell Gold and Bob Williams introduces its Spring 2018 home collection of classic, modern, and new traditional silhouettes in a vivid spectrum of colors, textures, patterns, and prints. The new spring collection features a modern slant with clean-lined and comfortable styles that pay tribute to iconic American designs from the mid-century to the late 1970s. Experience the new collection in comfort at a signature store near you or peruse the entire collection in e-catalog online. Find a store and shop online at mgbwhome.com. Join the Mitchell Gold and Bob Williams Comfort Club, a customer loyalty program that offers you 20% savings every day with exclusive access to special member-only offers and services like complimentary in-home design. It's free. It's easy to join. Sign up now. Start saving today at a Mitchell Gold and Bob Williams signature store near you or online at mgbwhome.com.
Hello, I'm Casey Hobbs.
And I'm Shane Mason, and we're the hosts of Nurse Talk Radio.
Here's what we're talking about this week. Not only the benefits, but access to treatments, prescription drugs, certain facilities, the latest technologies, all depend on what you can pay.
It's clear the U.S. healthcare system's teetering on the verge of collapse and must be reformed. That's one of the reasons Representative Keith Ellison from Minnesota has taken on the lead as sponsor for H.R. 676, the Expanded and Improved Medicare for All Act.
With us today is Director of Public Policy for National Nurses United, Michael Leidy. For over 25 years, Michael has organized, written, and spoken for improved Medicare for All. He is currently the lead policy analyst for the Single-Payer Bill, SB 562, the Healthy California Act, and a fellow of the Sanders Institute. He is one of the nation's top Medicare for All policy experts.
Thank you, Shane, and thank you, Casey. Really a pleasure to talk with you again.
Sure. So in introducing your recent article, A Labor-Based Movement for Medicare for All, you say we need health care, not insurance, and that the fight for health care is not new. Americans have been fighting for quality health care for decades. What were some of those achievements, and what role did labor play in that?
Well, labor fundamentally has set the standard for worker health benefits and has demanded of employers and, frankly, through Medicare, because labor was the primary mover behind Medicare in the early 60s, really starting in the late 50s, has established that basis of health care is a human right for the whole population. We haven't achieved that, but the programs, Medicare, Medicaid, employer-based insurance, those derive directly from the organizing, the blood, sweat, and treasure that workers have put in through their unions to win. So I think we can say that the achievements we've made in terms of providing care and also in terms of the quality of care that exists in hospitals and organization of healthcare workers, registered nurses and others, all derives from building that labor-based power in healthcare.
With the recent decline of unions, the ability to fight for our health care in the same way has diminished as well. Say more about that and what can be done to strengthen the labor movement's role in healthcare.
What we need to do in healthcare is link the struggles that healthcare workers have with their employers with the patient's demand for guaranteed healthcare. And so what we find, particularly with registered nurses, is their alliance with the patients and the public both enables them to be advocates for improving quality of care, but also for guaranteeing healthcare for everyone, for universal healthcare.
Thanks for listening. You can find more information about these topics at nursetalksite.com or nationalnursesunited.org.
This podcast is powered by National Nurses United, the nation's largest union for registered nurses.
So let's see. There's still no female president. You make half of what men make, yet somehow you are still expected to take care of most everything at the home, too. And ladies, you're beautiful. But on a daily basis, you look in the mirror in disgust at how you look. It is time to start a new routine, and I hope that you will listen to my new show, She Persisted, here on the Progressive Voices Network. My name is Melissa Carter. I will be your host, and I have been a media personality for over 20 years. I also came out on the air long before Ellen did, and as a single mom and a kidney transplant recipient, I have been through some shit. Nevertheless,
all things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Oh, everybody! Breaking news.
We have breaking news just in. The New York Times just reported that the FBI today raided the offices of President Trump's longtime attorney, Michael Cohen, seizing records related to multiple topics, including on that payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels' alleged hush money. The New York Times also reporting that the FBI also seized emails, tax documents, and business records, and that the records include communications between Michael Cohen, the president's attorney, and President Trump, which would likely require a special team of agents to review because conversations with lawyers and clients are protected in most instances.
I'm going to bomb the shit out of them.
Oh no. Oh, this is wow. This is very Paul, this is very Manafort, isn't it? It's very Manafort. There was a and check this out. The Mueller investigation actually referred prosecutors in Manhattan, the information that the prosecutors in Manhattan, not Mueller's office, but the Manhattan FBI, the New York FBI, they were given a referral by Mueller to go get a warrant and to break into attorney Michael Cohen's office today and seize emails and computers and records and tax documents and business records and communications between Donald Trump and Michael Cohen today. This is so Paul Manafort. This is exactly what happened with Manafort. Remember, he had a no-knock warrant where the FBI showed up at his door and they went into his house because obviously there's information that says that Michael Cohen would either, had not cooperated and turned over documents that he said that he would, or that Michael Cohen was withholding documents and they feared he would destroy them. And so they went in and seized them today. And this is, Donald Trump's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen. This is the same Michael Cohen that was trying to get a deal in Russia during the presidential campaign. This is the same Michael Cohen who said that he, signed President Trump under his porn name, David Dennison, to a non-disclosure agreement, but never told his client. This is a guy who is, in violation of, ethical guidelines of the New York bar. If he didn't tell his client that he was entering him into a non-disclosure agreement and that he was paying Stormy Daniels under, I don't know what this is about. All I could tell you is that the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York executed a series of search warrants today and seized privileged communications between Michael Cohen and his clients, now he's got a new lawyer, Stephen Ryan. That's now Michael Cohen's attorney. Remember we had, Dave out there, and he was losing badly to Michael Avenatti. He said, I've been advised by federal prosecutors that the New York action is in part a referral by the Office of Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Mr. Cohen plays a role in aspects of the special counsel's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. He also recently said he paid $130,000 to Stephanie Clifford, who said she had an affair with Mr. Trump. Ms. Clifford is known as Stormy Daniels. Mr. Ryan said Mr. Cohen had cooperated with authorities and turned over thousands of documents to congressional investigators looking into Russian election meddling. The payments to Ms. Clifford are only one of the many topics being investigated, according to a person briefed on the search. The FBI also seized emails, tax documents, business records, and seized records, including communications between Mr. Trump and Mr. Cohen, which would likely require a special team of agents to review because conversations between lawyer and clients are protected from scrutiny in most instances. Now, this article is not telling you is there is an exception to the attorney-client privilege. If your attorney and you, the client, are sitting there and you're figuring out ways to act corruptly or to commit crimes like conspiracy with a foreign adversary. And, the Syria story ought to prove to all these people out there who don't understand, why do I say Russia is a foreign adversary? Well, they've killed some of our soldiers in Syria, for starters. 2, they helped the Syrians gas the rebels. We're the rebels, right? So I think it should be clear to you why we're not friends with Russia. I think it should be absolutely clear to you that Russia is some also-ran third-rate economy that wants to be in Syria because Syria's got oil and gas, which is the only thing the Russian government has. That's it. Russia is a petrol state, and so is Syria. And Russia wants not only to be in Syria because of the petrol, because of the oil fields, but Russia also needs a port to the Mediterranean, and they don't have one, except the one they have in Syria. You see what I mean? They're not our friends. And the way that they operate and the way that they spy on us and the way that they cheat us and the way they attacked us, this president will not admit it. Now, over the weekend, he started tweeting about, for the first time, his crush, Vlad, he had to trash his crush. And you know how heartbroken you are when you have to trash your crush. So I think now between this and the raiding of Michael Cohen, his attorney, his office, based on a warrant that was gotten through a court, which means a judge agreed with the New York FBI that there was probable cause that required them to act this way and go into Michael Cohen's office and seize computers and seize documents and seize tax records. Apparently, a judge agreed because they got a warrant. They got one. And I'll bet you it has everything to do with the corrupt and the conspiratorial activities of the Trump campaign to allow Russia to not only hack with their knowledge, but also to feed them the stolen, hacked emails on a very precise timetable so that when the, Access Hollywood tape comes out, well, all of a sudden you get new emails from the Russians that hacked into Podesta's emails or into Hillary's emails or into the DNC's emails. So I just want you to understand that there is no attorney-client privilege if the attorney and the client were engaging in corrupt business practices or engaging in conspiracies that were illegal, okay? And so this is where we are. All right, now what is this? What is this? Just read it. Really? You sure?
Vanity Fair is also reporting that the feds raided his New York hotel room.
All right, I'll just read this. This is the New York Times, reprinted in Vanity Fair. It says, the paparazzi lingering outside the Lowe's Regency on Park Avenue hoping to get a photo of UFC fighter Conor McGregor appeared not to notice the stream of FBI agents who entered the New York hotel early Monday morning as they made their way up to the room, oh my God, where the president's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, had been staying. A handful of them remained upstairs for several hours, according to a source familiar with the situation. Quote, today, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York executed a series of search warrants. Oh, my God. And seized the privileged communications between my client, Michael Cohen, and his clients, Cohen attorney Stephen Ryan said in a statement, right? I have been advised by federal prosecutors that the New York action is in part a referral by the Office of Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Yeah. Downstairs, Hotel Jazz blared on speakers as women with Louis Vuitton totes and men in Gucci loafers and gold button blazers checked in and out, while kids in Yeezys and fur-trimmed puffer coats chased each other around the lobby. A woman who looked awfully like Caroline Kennedy made a quick pass through the restaurant, and hotel security seemed to arrange a way for a guest, perhaps McGregor, to make an exit through a side door without being spotted. The cheery hotel scene belied what has become a growing legal headache for Cohen, as Robert Mueller's Russia probe is expanded to include inquiries into the Trump Organization's business records and foreign dealings, including in Russia. Last week, McClatchy reported that special counsel's investigators showed up with subpoenas to the home of an associate of the Trump Organization, compelling sworn testimony and electronic records. The report indicated that investigators were interested in interactions involving Cohen. Monday's FBI raid was completely inappropriate and unnecessary, Cohen's attorney said. It resulted in the unnecessary seizure of protected attorney-client communications between a lawyer and his clients. These government tactics are also wrong because Mr. Cohen has cooperated completely with all government entities, including providing thousands of non-privileged documents to Congress and sitting for depositions under oath. And it goes on. What's new in here? Oh. All right. So I'm telling you that, he may have, Michael Cohen may have turned over documents that were not confidential documents, but there might have been a finding, or there had to have been a finding, that the privileged and confidential documents between Michael Cohen, Trump, the Trump Organization, tax records, emails, etc., were no longer protected under attorney-client privilege because they displayed that the attorney and the client were engaged in a conspiracy of some sort to do some damn thing that was corrupt, that was illegal. And if you are working with your lawyer and you are engaged in something illegal or corrupt, and your lawyer is part of that corruption, then there is no attorney-client privilege. And somehow Robert Mueller and the FBI in New York City were able to convince a judge to issue the warrant to confiscate confidential material because they were able to show a judge that the lawyer and the client were conspiring to do corrupt or illegal things, or both. Wow, that's unbelievable. That is wow. Are we breaking? So just remember there was a judge involved. Just remember that they had to show that there was a crime that was being committed, but with Michael Cohen and Donald Trump each participating. Otherwise, the judge would never agree to a search warrant for attorney-client privileged material. The showing had to be convincing, show probable cause to a judge that Michael Cohen and Donald Trump were doing something corrupt, doing something illegal. Otherwise, they would never have gotten this warrant. So, I mean, this is, and it's a referral from Mueller, but it was executed by the state of New York, which is, the New York FBI, which is amazing because remember, the president cannot pardon state crimes.
To speak to Randi, call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
Hello.
Randi Rhodes. Air Force.
Oh, you're baking me crazy. Oh, yes, bacon lovers. It's that time of year. The time to stock up on the best tasting bacon jerky on the planet. And if you've had Herky Jerky bacon jerky, you know I'm not April fooling around. The tender cuts of pork shoulder are scrumptiously delicious and taste just like the home-cooked bacon out of your fridge, except softer and bendier. It's the perfect snack on its own. It's a great complement to your egg breakfast on a BLT sandwich, or dice it up, put it on your egg or potato salad or in any of your salads. One-of-a-kind bacon jerky. It comes in generous 12-ounce bags, and all month of April, you get $5 off every bag. No promo code needed. So stock up now. Take advantage of the savings. Customers receive free shipping on 2 packs or more of anything on their website. So check out the beef jerky, the Smokies, the buffalo, the elk, the venison, and the turkey jerky as well. Thank you to all the loyal customers who patronize Herky Jerky, and welcome to all the new ones. Go to herkyjerky.com now.
I'm Tom, and this is a quick shot of the Coffee Cast on the Progressive Voices channel and tune in. Catch the Coffee Cast podcast on demand now on the Progressive Voices app and progressivevoices.com. From the mighty Gabriel Sherman in Vanity Fair, Trump is like, how can I fuck with him? Trump's war with Amazon and the Washington Post is personal. For the first time in Donald Trump's presidency, the West Wing soap opera appears to be in hiatus, with many of its starring characters, Gary Cohen, Hope Hicks, either permanently off stage or with much reduced roles. John Kelly, Jared Kushner. Currently, there's one star. And that's a situation Trump is obviously enjoying, and his new freedom is used to focus ever more closely on his perceived enemies and obsessions. Amazon, whose owner, Jeff Bezos, also owns the Washington Post, is currently the main target. Trump has ripped into Amazon in recent days, claiming in a series of tweets that Jeff Bezos' tech giant benefits from billions in subsidies from the U.S. Post Office, while skirting sales taxes. Quote, unlike others, they pay little or no taxes to state and local governments, use our postal service as their delivery boy, causing tremendous loss to the U.S., and are putting many thousands of retailers out of business, Trump tweeted. On Monday, he wrote, only fools, or worse, are saying that a money-losing post office makes money with Amazon. They lose a fortune, and this will be changed. Also, our fully tax-paying retailers are closing stores all over the country. Not a level playing field. The tweets caused Amazon stock to plunge 5% on Monday. Now, according to 4 sources close to the White House, Trump is discussing ways to escalate his Twitter attacks on Amazon to further damage the company. He's off the hook on this. It's war, one source told me. Gets obsessed with something, and now he's obsessed with Bezos, said another source. Trump is like, how can I fuck with him? According to sources, Trump wants the post office to increase Amazon's shipping costs. When Trump previously discussed the idea inside the White House, Gary Cohen had explained that Amazon is a benefit to the Postal Service, which has seen mail volume plummet in the age of email. Trump doesn't have Gary Cohen breathing down his neck saying, you can't do post office shit, a Republican close to the White House said.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
This is all I got.
We have breaking news just in. The New York Times just reported that the FBI today raided the offices of President Trump's longtime attorney, Michael Cohen, seizing records related to multiple topics, including on that payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels' alleged hush money. The New York Times also reporting that the FBI also seized emails, tax documents, and business records, and that the records include communications between Michael Cohen, the president's attorney, and President Trump, which would likely require a special team of agents to review because conversations with lawyers and clients are protected in most instances.
Yes, but not in there is a crime and corruption exception to the attorney-client privilege. You can't, conspire with your attorney to commit crime. You could go to your attorney and tell him you committed a crime, although most attorneys won't ask you if you're guilty, and ask for a defense, okay? But you can't coordinate to commit crimes with your lawyer and have your lawyer not claim attorney-client privilege as you're planning a crime, okay? So that's interesting. Now, remember that Michael Cohen came on our radar screen a long-ass time ago. You know, we heard, the first time we ever heard Michael Cohen's name was in that famous Chris Steele dossier. Remember that? And now Christopher Steele, the former MI6 officer, is on a hit list to be killed by Vlad, the Impaler, who just helped Syria gas a whole bunch of, women and children over the weekend. What nice people you support, you freaks. What nice people our president supports. Oh, it's just unbelievable. But remember back in 2016 when we first saw the Trump-Russia dossier compiled by Chris Steele, there was an allegation in there that said that Cohen had traveled to Prague to meet with Russian operatives to clean up a mess. Now, Cohen has told every reporter that's asked him a million times that he's never been to Prague. He claims the dossier is fake. He filed a defamation suit against Fusion GPS, which is the employer who employed Chris Steele as a contractor. And they were the ones that told Chris Steele to go ahead and compile a dossier of opposition research on Donald Trump, first paid for by conservative groups, and then paid for by Democratic groups after Trump got the nomination, the Republican nomination. And Cohen's been very busy filing all these defamation suits. He sued Fusion GPS. He's also sued BuzzFeed, who published the dossier. He's suing them for $100 million in damages, as if his reputation is, $100 million worth. And then last year, we found out that Cohen was working with Donald Trump to build a Trump Tower Moscow during the 2016 campaign, where Trump was on the campaign trail going, well, and specifically, his weasel words were, I have no buildings in Russia. I have no, businesses in Russia. Right. But we didn't understand that Russia had business with Donald Trump and Russia had business with Michael Cohen, his personal attorney. And so apparently in September, Michael Cohen was questioned by the congressional committees. It lasted 2 days. And, the House committee sat there and said, thanks, Michael. Thanks for coming in. They said the same thing to Carter. Thanks, Carter. Thanks for coming in. Said the same thing to Manafort. Said the same thing to Bannon, right? Bannon actually gave the House Intel Committee 25 questions that he would answer, not another question. And the answer to all the 25 was no. And they said, thank you. All right, thanks for coming in. So we don't know what is in these documents, but whatever is in these documents was enough to convince a judge to issue a warrant to go raid, and there were multiple warrants. That's the most important part of the Vanity Fair story that's not in the New York Times story, is that they had multiple search warrants. They raided not just his office, but they raided a hotel room he was staying in. It's very interesting. The Wall Street Journal reported in January, as you remember, that Stephanie Clifford, who goes by the name of Stormy Daniels, was paid $130,000 by Michael Cohen as part of their non-disclosure agreement. And Michael Cohen was complaining that he never got his money back from his client, Donald Trump, which is so fascinating because doesn't that then mean that Michael Cohen is the person who breached the non-disclosure agreement by telling anybody, including the newspaper, the Wall Street Journal, that there was a non-disclosure agreement and that a payment was made. Just doing that alone, he breached the document. This is one of the things, Michael Avenatti, he said the other day, I guess it was Friday or Thursday, they all blend together these days, right? That it was like Christmas. It was like Christmas for him because Donald Trump was asked a question on Air Force One coming back from that lying, ridiculous dog and pony show he did in West Virginia the other day, where Donald Trump was supposed to be there talking about his tax plan and instead threw his script away and went off script and started talking about, we're getting out of Syria and, and just going off. And everything he said was fact checked like a day later. And nothing that he said was true. Nothing that he said was proven. I mean, he was just sitting there crapping to the poor people in Appalachia who are holding on to, dear life to the fact that Trump meant what he said about bringing coal back or beautiful, clean coal, which doesn't exist. Whatever. And, and then all of a sudden, on the way back from West Virginia, where he was feeling all emboldened because West Virginia is holding on to him with clenched fists, hoping to God that he could do something for them. And he was asked a question, about the Stormy Daniels, and he said he didn't know about the payment because he's too stupid to say, I'm not going to be answering any questions about this matter, or he's too stubborn to follow his own legal, the legal advice that he gets, which is you don't discuss, this situation in public, because if you say you didn't know, then you're throwing Michael Cohen under the bus, which is a good place for Michael Cohen. This is what we said on Friday. Being under the bus was a good place for Michael Cohen to be because we thought maybe if he was under the bus, Mueller couldn't find him. Kind of like Cape Fear. He was like Max Cady, hanging on to the freaking, camshaft, in the family's van as they fled to, their boat in Cape Fear. That's how I pictured Michael Cohen, just under the bus, hanging on for dear life. But apparently Mueller found him, and Mueller knew that he was staying in a hotel, and Mueller knew that, his office, and they went and they got a warrant, and they had it executed by the New York FBI. And there's a strategic reason for that. The strategic reason is if Michael Cohen broke a New York state law, if Michael Cohen violated a law in the state of New York, Trump cannot pardon him. And everybody's terrified that Trump, this is the reason why Manafort isn't cooperating, because, this no-knock warrant that Manafort had executed upon him, that was the same idea, right? That he would destroy documents and that he couldn't be trusted and that, he was lying to the investigators and that he was covering something up and all this. So they had this urgency and had to convince a judge to execute a no-knock warrant. And a judge agreed. Well, the same thing happened here, except that Mueller didn't have it executed as a activity of the federal special counsel. Instead, he went to the New York FBI, the Manhattan district attorney. And that's because if it's a state crime that they suspect Michael Cohen is guilty of, then Trump can't even dangle a pardon, which was a big story, a couple weeks ago, that Trump was dangling pardons in front of guys like Manafort and dangling pardons in front of Roger Stone and dangling pardons in front of people who, were facing crimes. I guess he left out Rick Gates because Rick Gates pled guilty and agreed to cooperate. I guess he left out George Papadopoulos because George Papadopoulos pleaded guilty and he's participating in the Mueller investigation. And perhaps they know something that allowed them to get this warrant. I don't know. But, when they start doing these when they start breaking into your office, when they start breaking into your hotel room with, court-ordered, court-signed warrants, you're screwed. You're in big damn trouble. So here's what the GOP thinks they're going to run on. This is crazy, I know, but this is who they are. They're crazy. The GOP thinks, I just want you to know, the midterms, have officially begun as far as, it's 91 degrees here. So for us here, it's summer. And then after summer comes the fall, and then we vote. It's getting closer and closer. And so many people are so anxious to get to the ballot box and vote and get rid of the Republican Congress because they know that they will never, ever, no matter what Mueller refers to them, no matter what Mueller's report shows, no matter, and we were even talking about whether or not the head of the House Intelligence, Nunes or Conaway, we don't even know who the hell's going to receive the Mueller report because Nunes recused himself, right? But now he's kind of back. It's so ridiculous. And then over in the Senate, whether Grassley would make public Mueller's findings. But Mueller can do another thing. He can also send to Congress a referral for an impeachment of the president. And this Republican Congress will never, ever impeach this president. They've already made clear that they're running on the fact that when we vote, and when we vote in massive, massive numbers in the midterm, that we will elect a Democratic Congress who will look at the Mueller report and will look at any referral he sends for impeachment and will execute on that. And that's what the GOP is running on, that we, the people, will vote to impeach this president by virtue of our representatives, by virtue of the representation we pick in November. And they are out there running, well, the deep state, they're going to impeach, like I'm the deep state, like you're the deep state, like people who, are sitting here going, oh my God, this man's words are meaningless. He's entered us into a trade war with China. The soybean farmers in Iowa, North Dakota, and Illinois, and Montana, and Missouri, they're all freaked out. Nobody knows what his word means. Nobody knows. Oh, well, I'll take it. I mean, they're actually telling these people there's going to be pain. There's going to be in the red states where China is so smart that they targeted any retaliation if Trump should actually go forward with this trade war. They're going to retaliate in Trump states. I mean, it's so specific and it's so telling what they're going to do. And Sarah says, when she's asked, well, the president is trashing great American companies like Amazon, which employ 500,000 people. 500,000 people work for Amazon. He's trash talking that. And now he's trash talking, the entire trade. Now, here's a dirty little secret. If you were for keeping China from being so ascendant, you'd be for TPP. But the people who are against TPP don't understand what TPP is. But the Trans-Pacific Partnership was to bind together countries in the Pacific who aren't China, to give them a cumulative voice in American trade, right? We were going to trade with them to punish China. That's what TPP is. But they don't know that. Anyway, so now he's, threatening this trade war, and Sarah Sanders was asked, well, what about this? I mean, people are losing, they're losing, the ability to figure out what to plant and millions of dollars, and stocks are tanking, and what about it? And she goes, oh, well, there will be pain.
In the meantime, Sarah, as all this is taking place, we're seeing some really wild swings in the stock market, which represents billions and tens of billions of dollars in real money. Is the president worried that this saber rattling is causing many people in this country to lose money?
No, the president's worried that we have countries that have been taking advantage of us for decades, and that he's not going to allow that to happen anymore. We may have a little bit of short-term pain, but we're certainly going to have long-term success, and we're focused on long-term economic principles and making sure that we have a strong and stable economy, and that's exactly what the president's doing.
And if that was what the president was doing, the president would be all about TPP. He would be all about the Trans-Pacific Partnership that was designed to bond together countries that export, like Vietnam and South Korea and all that, to keep China, kind of isolated. But he hates TPP. It's the same thing. Iran is in Syria, right? Because Iran knows that Syria's got these oil fields, and they hate Sunnis. And so Iran is in Syria, and he wants to tear up the Iran nuclear. What, is he not going to be happy until Russia's Air Force can drop Iranian nuclear bombs on Syrians? Who, by the way, have done nothing to you except protest and ask for human rights in 2011. And Assad decided protest bad, hates protests, and crushed these people. and did something so obscene. They took a 13-year-old boy's body that was killed in the crushing of the protests and delivered it back to the family as a warning. Don't you dare send your children to protest me. Don't you dare. And the family said, hey, media, please come and take a photo of our dead boy. We want to show you how brutal this Assad guy is. We want to show you. And that's how this whole thing in Syria started. So I don't know. The GOP would not allow Obama to do anything in Syria. Trump was tweeting, don't you dare go into Syria. Now, all of a sudden this morning, he's like, in 48 hours, I'll let you know what I'm going to do in Syria. It's disgusting. And, my crush, Vlad, I have to, I'm so angry at him. I'm so angry. I'm so mad. I loved him. And he betrayed me. And now I have to, I don't know.
I'm going to bomb the shit out of him.
Oh, God. This man does not know what he's doing. He doesn't know. And now his lawyer's office gets raided. You think this is going to put him in a good mood or a bad mood? You think we're going to attack Syria or not? And all the people in Syria just like us, just like the people who grow soybeans and pigs, we just want all these wars to stop. That's it. No trade war, sign the stinking TPP, bond together with other Asian nations, minimalize, or at least, not marginalize, but minimize China's, ascendancy by trading with other Asian nations. It's a good idea.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
There is no more beautiful sight than an American-made car.
Bad news for consumers. Trump's EPA to roll back fuel efficiency standards for cars. Department of Justice sues California for blocking sale of federally owned lands in California. Exxon's lawsuit to prevent states from investigating its climate change denial is thrown out of court. Plus,
listen, I don't know how you survive this one.
Environmental groups launch a campaign to boot Pruitt.
All of those campaigns and lawsuits straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
We're going to work on the CAFE standards so you can make cars in America again.
Wow, you couldn't make cars in America anymore? That'll be news to the auto industry, who just finished 7 record years of all-time high sales. Go figure. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, the U.S. auto industry has been, forgive the pun, firing on all pistons now for a whole bunch of years, right up until this year. 1 year after Donald Trump takes office.
Yeah, and now they want to roll back the fuel efficiency standards. As expected, the Trump administration's Environmental Protection Agency announced on Monday that it will begin the formal process of rolling back pollution and emission standards for new cars that were set under President Obama. Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt called the Obama-era targets for vehicles starting in 2022, quote, wrong and not appropriate. U.S. automakers heavily lobbied for the change and reportedly intend to use the rollback to demand that other countries weaken their standards as well. The Obama standards had been the single biggest action ever taken by the U.S. federal government to curb carbon emissions. Big oil is the big winner, since weaker fuel efficiency standards will increase oil consumption. Weakening the targets will also increase carbon emissions, increase air pollution, and will ultimately cost American families money at the gas pump and in health impacts.
Money at the gas pump because they're going to be paying higher prices for gas than they would have had these standards been allowed to move forward.
As environmental journalist David Roberts of Vox.com noted in a recent broadcast, environmental deregulation amounts to a pollution tax on everyday Americans.
Getting rid of these regulations is an upward income redistribution. You're taking money out of the pockets of ordinary people in the form of health costs and missed work and all the rest of it, and you're putting it in the pockets of industrialists.
Auto industry analysts warn that U.S. car makers risk losing market share to Chinese and European manufacturers because the rest of the world is moving toward more fuel-efficient cars. Administrator Pruitt also threatened to revoke California's special authority under the Clean Air Act to set more stringent standards for vehicles sold in California. California and other states plan to sue the Trump administration to block the weakening of these standards.
Because they're arguing that California's more stringent standards can't stand? Because somehow that affects markets in the rest of the country?
Yes, they want a national standard, which will, of course, be a weaker standard.
So much for states' rights that Republicans pretend to care about.
Exactly. Also on Monday, the Trump Justice Department picked another legal fight with California, suing in federal court to overturn a state law that restricts the transfer of public lands to private buyers, as the administration tries to open up more public lands to mining and drilling. The state law gives the California State Lands Commission the right of first refusal over any attempted sale or transfer of publicly owned federal lands that are located in California.
So much for states' rights that Republicans pretend to believe in.
Again, exactly. In politics, major environmental organizations like the Sierra Club and the Environmental Defense Fund have launched a coordinated campaign calling for EPA Chief Scott Pruitt to be fired. The Boot Pruitt campaign highlights Pruitt's deregulatory actions that endanger public health, but also his lavish first-class travel and large private security detail on the taxpayer's dime, amid a brewing scandal over his sweetheart below-market rent arrangement for an apartment from the wife of a D.C. energy industry lobbyist. On Sunday's ABC This Week, former New Jersey Governor Republican Chris Christie criticized Pruitt's judgment.
The president's been ill-served by this, and if Mr. Pruitt's going to go, it's because he should have never been there in the first place.
Finally, some good news. A U.S. federal district judge has dismissed ExxonMobil's lawsuit attempting to block an investigation by the attorneys general of New York and Massachusetts into whether the oil giant covered up what it knew about climate change impacts and whether it lied about it to investors and the public. The judge dismissed Exxon's lawsuit with prejudice, meaning the company cannot bring it again.
The judge booted ExxonMobil's case.
Yes, she did.
And environmentalists are trying to boot Scott Pruitt.
Yes, they are.
That's a lot of boots. For much more on all of these reports and the ones we couldn't get to today, please check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Find us, follow us, and share us worldwide on the Facebooks and the Twitters.
Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.